for more on this adventure and the remarkable creatures that brought Windsor together with Hollywood off the coast of a remote Norwegian island in the Arctic. We're joined in the studio now by Eric Ste-Marie. You heard his voice in that clip. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this was actually filmed in 2021 and it's just being released now. So this conversation must have a lot of development since what we saw in the documentary.
Yeah, so in the documentary, I was actually working as a research assistant in Dr. Hussey's lab, and we went up to collect this data to put what we call biologging tags, so electronic data loggers that will record behavior and environmental factors surrounding a shark as it goes through its daily life.
Yeah. What was it like in that moment that we heard where you get off your boat and you go aboard the Ocean Explorer?
Getting onto a boat like that was just really unlike any other experience, professionally or personally, I've ever had. This boat is the most advanced research vessel on the planet. So they've got wet labs, dry labs, a gene sequencer on board, 2 submarines, and an ROV, just really anything you could ever want in a research setting.
It's like a playground for a researcher like you.
Exactly.
In a place that you never expected you would be.
No, exactly. We usually work with Greenland sharks up in the Canadian Arctic, and so I'd never been to anywhere in Norway, and especially not Svalbard, and it truly was one of the most beautiful places to visit.
When did you develop this interest in the Greenland shark?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in marine biology, and during my undergrad, I kind of fell in love with the Arctic, starting by working with seabirds. And then later, I was given the great opportunity to do my master's here at the University of Windsor, studying Greenland sharks. And the project was so cool, I couldn't say no. I obviously fell in love, stayed with it, and now I'm doing my PhD in Dr. Hussey's lab, again, on Greenland sharks.
Yeah. What kind of questions are you trying to answer?
So we're really focused on their behavior, so fine-scale behavior. We don't really know anything almost about Greenland sharks. So they live in typically deep water in remote areas of the Arctic. And so accessing these species in order to study them can be quite difficult. In the past, most studies have been on dead Greenland sharks, which are caught as bycatch in commercial fisheries. And that can tell you a lot about their kind of internal anatomy and stuff, but it's hard to understand what their actual behavior and daily lives are when the sharks are coming up dead.
I didn't realize how little was known or how elusive they were until I watched this documentary. And there's this moment where the professor, not you, it's like watching the moon landing and seeing that only one person gets to go on the moon and there's a whole team of you. But we'll get to that in a minute. But in the submarine, it goes down. They've put some bait in the water. They're waiting for a Greenland shark to come. And I didn't realize this is the first time you're seeing it in its natural environment ever.
Yeah, at the bottom of an Arctic fjord,
Right?
really, no one's seen a Greenland shark in this way, and watching it feed like that is really something that's very special. And in the show, it might not seem like it's that long, but actually, each of those subdives is about like 8 or 9 hours, and so it would take multiple hours. I think on the day I went down, it took about 4 hours before we saw our first shark, and the whole time you're thinking, oh gosh, what if we don't see one? And you start to kind of like worry that was all this for nothing, and then when you do see it, it's really...
What do you do for 4 hours while you're waiting?
You talk. So we're in the sub with one of the show hosts and the sub pilot, and so we'll talk about Greenland sharks. They'll do kind of some interviews with us, and then just talk about personal lives, that kind of thing.
What was it like going in that submarine? It's all glass enclosed, and you start being submerged. It definitely feels like a James Cameron moment because it's similar to the one they used when they were looking at the Titanic, right? What was it like when you're going down and you're getting sort of suffocated by the water?
It's really amazing, and to be in that kind of glass orb, and I think they said it was like 9 inches of plexiglass, basically to handle that pressure at depth. But having that 360 view around you of the water kind of coming in, and as you're going down, it's getting darker and darker as less and less light makes it to you. You see layers of jellyfish in the water. We saw some cod swimming by, and then you hit the bottom, and it's almost pitch black at this depth. We're right on the edge of the twilight zone, so basically the edge of where light even reaches. And so it's really, really dark, and then you're just waiting at the bottom of the ocean, waiting to see what the species you've been studying for years and years, but never got to see in its natural kind of setting. When we normally tag them, we're fishing for them, so we're bringing them up to the surface, putting our tags on, and then releasing them, which is great. But you really want to see also the species like in its natural environment, and to really get an appreciation for it.
Yeah, because even you put some bait down there in the piece that we saw, but the shark had no interest in the bait. And then you had to use a robot arm, pull the bait out, shake it a bit, and then we finally saw the shark show some interest. Did that surprise you that you needed to sort of interact a bit more with him?
Yeah, we thought it would go kind of go for the food a lot quicker. We didn't think it would take as long to become interested in it. In the past, we've done remote camera surveys where we'll sink a piece of bait on a structure with a little GoPro basically, and then we can see kind of sharks kind of swimming up and feeding on it. So we know they do scavenge on these dead bits of bait. But in those settings, like with the GoPro, you only have a really narrow view, and so you can't really see the full spectrum of behaviors that with a sub, and not just one sub. There's a camera sub filming us and an ROV as well, so you get really a wide view of the whole area. And so we could follow this shark for much longer and see kind of as it's initially exploring the bait and then until it actually feeds on it, you can kind of get a much better picture of how it's interacting with food in its environment.
So the data was collected back in 2021. Have you been able to go through a lot of that and really advance your research?
Yeah, so like I said, I was a research assistant at the time when we collected the data. Now I'm a PhD candidate in Dr. Hussey's lab, and so I've started processing a lot of that data, and we are just seeing some really cool stuff. So our tags, on top of recording acceleration, which gives us kind of an idea of how fast they're swimming, their orientation in the water, so body angles as they're swimming and moving through their environment, but a lot of these tags also have built-in sonars or hydrophones, and so we can see and hear what's around the shark while it's doing these behaviors. And so for the first time, we can really link these patterns in their behavior that we're observing to things like feeding events, which is really one of the big mysteries about Greenland sharks. Are they capturing their prey alive, or are they just scavenging, or how much of each of these types of strategies are they doing? And we really don't have an idea of that yet. We know they eat all sorts of different things. So fish, marine mammals, squid, all sorts of stuff they'll eat, but we don't know how they're acquiring this food. And that's really important to understanding their role in the kind of broader ecosystem.
When you watched the documentary back, were you able to learn something from a different vantage point at all?
Yeah, I mean, again, because it was in 2021 that we did it, and we don't really get to see any of it until the series comes out. So you get to, again, relive that whole experience. And again, going down in a submarine is every child who dreams about being a marine biologist's dream is to do that. So to get to see that again really kind of re-inspires you to do this kind of research.
What do you hope people learn when they watch this?
I hope people learn that there are more than just the 5 sharks you see on Shark Week every year. So there's just so many species of shark, and they live such diverse lives. And so not every shark is this big, fast-moving.
They're slow.
Yeah.
But I think if I was 500 years old, there's not really anywhere I need to go to quickly either.
Exactly. Every part of them is slow. They mature slowly. They live a long time. They swim. Their typical swim speeds are actually about like 3 or 4 times slower than our normal walking speed.
Yeah.
So really, really slow. So in cold water, metabolism is very, very reduced. And so swimming slowly is kind of goes along with that. Growing slowly, reproducing slowly, everything happens.
Yeah, because I
slow.
thought, how many kids do they have in 500 years? But I think you had said something about they only give birth once or twice a century.
Yeah, so Greenland sharks will actually reach like sexual maturity after about 150 years, we think. And then once they do, it might take many years per gestation. So each pregnancy can take years and years to go through. So again, every aspect of their lives is just so slow.
I'm so grateful that you brought us into it. I laughed out loud when you said it's not on Shark Week, because that's literally what I thought was, why is this shark not on Shark Week? It's fascinating. But I understand now because there's not much known about them.
Exactly, not much known, and they're difficult to access. You know, it's easier to get a boat out in the tropics to go look for white sharks or bull sharks or that kind of thing. But it can be expensive and resource intensive to get out into the Arctic to actually work with these species.
What's next for your research?
What's next? I want to finish my PhD, publish that research that we collected data for on this series, and then who knows what's next.
Eric, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
University of Windsor's doctoral student, Eric Ste-Marie. He's an expert on the Greenland shark. He can be seen on the National Geographic documentary series OceanXplorers, streaming on Disney+, and I'm pretty sure it was episode 6.